The siren didn't belong on a quiet morning street, but it tore through the air anyway. Sharp, jagged, unnecessary. Colonel Marcus Hale felt it settle behind him like a blade pressed between his shoulders. He'd only paused at the crosswalk, nothing more. Yet the cruiser lurched to the curb as if he'd committed a felony. Boots hit asphalt. Aggressive. Marcus didn't turn at first. He watched sunlight catch on puddles, listened to the distant hum of a bus engine, tried to steady the tight coil forming in his chest. Then the voice hit him. "Hey! Don't stand like you own the place." Marcus pivoted slowly. The officer's stance was wide, hands hovering near his belt, jaw clenched the way men clench when they need to invent a threat. Passers-by slowed but didn't stop. Eyes drifted. No one interfered. Marcus lifted his ID wallet just enough to show he wasn't hiding anything. He didn't speak. The officer stepped closer. Too close. Breath hot. Tone colder. Drop the attitude. Men like you don't get to stand tall around me. That line sliced deeper than the volume he'd used. Marcus tightened his grip on the strap of the bag slung over his shoulder. A single thought pulsed through him. Not again. A radio crackled. The officer's fingers twitched. Then he reached for Marcus's arm. Quick, unprovoked. An attempt to drag him down from the stance that had set him off. Marcus didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't lower himself. The officer yanked harder. And froze, eyes narrowing at the emblem now visible beneath Marcus's jacket. The last sound before everything ruptured was his shocked exhale. The street looked ordinary enough for Marcus to believe, briefly, that today would pass without incident. Early light settled across the pavement in long gold strips. A bakery sign flickered. Someone across the road tugged a dog along, half asleep. It was the kind of morning built for anonymity. He wanted anonymity. But the world didn't give that to men who looked like him. He felt the cruiser before he heard it. A pressure behind the ribs, a shift in atmosphere, the familiar prickle of attention sharpening into threat. Then the siren chirped, a short, sharp command meant not to warn but to intimidate. Marcus stopped at the crosswalk, jaw tightening. The door slammed open. "Hey! Step away from the curb." Marcus exhaled slowly. "I'm standing at a crosswalk." Officer Denton approached with the stride of a man searching for a fight he believed he deserved. Square shoulders. Tight fist. Eyes already making decisions. "You don't get to mouth off," Denton said. "Move." Marcus didn't move. "I'm waiting for the light." Denton stepped in front of him, chest nearly touching Marcus's. "Don't stand tall like that in front of me." A few pedestrians paused. One woman hesitated with her phone half raised, then lowered it. A man tugged his child closer and hurried off. A group of teenagers watched from a distance, whispering. Marcus kept his breathing steady. "Officer, there is no situation here." "There is when I say there is." Denton's hand hovered over his holster, not touching it, just close enough to send a message. "Show ID." Marcus reached into his jacket slowly. Controlled. His fingers brushed the edge of his ID case, the insignia hidden beneath the leather. Denton snapped. "Don't make fast movements." "That wasn't fast." "It was fast to me." Marcus kept his eyes locked on the officer. "You're escalating a non-event. You think you get to decide that?" Denton's voice sharpened. "Men like you don't get to decide anything." The line dropped like a hammer. A murmur rippled through the small onlookers, but no one stepped in. No one voiced concern. Silence built a wall around the two men, and Denton stood firmly in the center of it. Marcus slowly opened the ID wallet. "Here." Denton didn't look at it. He slapped it from Marcus's hand. It hit the pavement with a soft, humiliating sound. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he remained still. Denton smiled, a thin, triumphant curve. Non-compliance. Interfering with a lawful order. "I complied with every request. You raised your voice. I haven't raised my voice. You're arguing with me now." Marcus inhaled sharply. "Officer." Turn around, Denton snapped. Hands on your head. You have no legal cause. I said turn around. The light changed. Cars rolled past. A few drivers stared, but no one stopped. Marcus stood rooted, calculating options with the trained precision of a man who had spent 2 decades learning the difference between force and discipline. He ran scenarios in his head, one after another, but every path ended the same. Denton wanted to dominate him, not resolve anything. I'm giving you a lawful command, Denton said. Don't make this harder. Marcus spoke quietly. You're violating. Denton lunged first. Not a tackle. Not yet. A grab. Rough fingers closing around Marcus's forearm, twisting, trying to pull him downward as if gravity itself had to be weaponized. Marcus didn't budge. Denton's eyes flickered. Don't resist, he hissed. I'm standing, Marcus said. That's all. Denton reached for his radio. Dispatch, I've got a non-compliant male. Possible threat. Send backup. Marcus's pulse thudded. The word threat had a history. Long one. Officers arrived primed for violence when that word hit the air. He forced his voice even. Officer Denton, I advise you to stop. Oh, you advise me. Denton leaned in, breath sharp with caffeine and arrogance. You think you're somebody. Marcus didn't answer. You think you can stand tall around me. Denton repeated. I'll break that posture. Then Denton grabbed for Marcus's jacket, yanking it open in another attempt to unbalance him. And that's when he saw it. The emblem. The rank insignia. The unmistakable marker of a full-bird colonel in the United States Army. Denton froze. His hand hung suspended in midair. His expression flickered with confusion first, then disbelief, then something uglier, a fear he refused to let show fully. Marcus didn't move, didn't speak, didn't offer relief. Denton's radio crackled again. Backup was already on the way. And the street went dead silent as the officer realized what, exactly, he had just done. The precinct door buzzed open with a hollow metallic sound, the kind that always suggested authority without ever proving it. Marcus stepped inside under escort. 2 officers at his flank, Denton half a step behind them, pretending he wasn't rattled. A sergeant at the front desk glanced up, eyes tracking the small procession. What's this? Denton answered before anyone else could. Detainment for non-compliance. The sergeant's stare slid to Marcus. A flicker of confusion, maybe irritation, maybe calculation. He resisting now. No, Denton said quickly. But he was earlier. Marcus stood silent. Talking here would only be twisted. He'd seen bureaucracies twist cleaner truths than this. Take him to room 3. The sergeant said. I'll get the watch commander. The officers led Marcus down the corridor. A young rookie walked ahead of them, repeatedly glancing back as though weighing whether to speak. He didn't. His silence felt like paperwork already being filed. Room 3 was small. Single table, 2 chairs, flickering fluorescent light. The walls were that institutional gray that tried to look neutral and only managed to look tired. Marcus sat. No cuffs. Not yet. Denton wanted the humiliation without the legal burden. Denton stood against the wall, arms crossed. You think that shiny little bird on your chest means anything here? Marcus looked at him evenly. It means responsibility. It means ego. Denton smirked. Men like you hide behind badges all the time. Marcus didn't answer. He kept his eyes fixed, posture steady. Denton wanted him rattled, reactive. Marcus refused to feed the story Denton was trying to write. The door opened. Watch Commander Sullivan stepped inside. Older, shoulders wide, expression controlled. He took one look at Marcus, then at the insignia still visible on the jacket Denton had yanked open. His voice changed immediately. Colonel Hale. Denton stiffened. Sullivan dismissed the others with emotion. Everyone out. Officer Denton stays. The door shut. Sullivan exhaled, slow. Colonel, let me first say, this is unexpected. Marcus didn't reply. Let them talk first. Let them reveal the script they intended to use. Sullivan turned to Denton. Explain. Denton straightened defensively. He failed to comply with lawful instructions. He stood in a threatening manner, refused to move. He was standing at a crosswalk, Marcus said, voice even. That's the entire incident. Denton's jaw twitched. He was confrontational, Marcus repeated. I said nothing confrontational. Sullivan raised a hand. Enough. He rubbed his temple, weighing the room like a man measuring liability rather than truth. Colonel Hale, Sullivan said, given your rank and service, I'd prefer to resolve this matter quietly. No formal charges. No statements. A misunderstanding handled internally. There it was. The institutional script. Protection over accountability. Marcus felt the familiar cold drop in his stomach. The part of racism that didn't shout, didn't push, didn't claw, but instead wrapped itself in polite language and administrative procedure. He kept his tone flat. Your officer fabricated non-compliance. Sullivan sighed. And the department will address it. But you understand how these situations escalate. Tensions. Perceptions. Truth isn't perception. And perception isn't always truth. Sullivan leaned forward. Look, Colonel, I respect your service. But it would be better for everyone if we process this with discretion. No reports leaving the building. No media involvement. Marcus held his gaze. You're asking me to stay silent. I'm asking you to be reasonable. Careers get ruined over misunderstandings. Marcus said nothing for several seconds. The silence thickened until Denton shifted uncomfortably. Sullivan continued quieter. Let us write this as an overreaction. Tense morning. Officer Denton will receive counseling. We'll file it as an internal matter. And the false report? Marcus asked. Sullivan didn't flinch. What report? The answer was blunt. Honest in its dishonesty. Marcus felt the pressure build behind his sternum. The familiar war between fury and discipline. 48 years of enforced composure tightened around him like armor. He stood from the chair. This isn't a misunderstanding, Marcus said. It's a pattern. Colonel. You want silence, Marcus said. Not resolution. Sullivan didn't deny it. His pause was confirmation enough. Finally, Sullivan gestured to the door. You're free to go. Denton blinked. Sir. Not a word, officer, Sullivan snapped. Dismissed. Denton's mouth tightened, but he stepped out, shooting Marcus a glare full of resentment and something like panic. Sullivan held the door open. Colonel, my advice, drop this. You know how messy these things get. Marcus walked past him without replying. The precinct hallway felt colder than when he'd entered. Officers stole glances as he passed. Some curious, some wary, some already crafting the version of the story they'd repeat in break rooms. Outside, the air hit his face sharp and cool. He stopped on the sidewalk, eyes narrowing slightly as he saw a figure across the street, a young private from his unit, uniform half covered by a hoodie, phone still raised from recording. The private nodded once, nervous but resolute. Marcus exhaled. So Denton's version wouldn't be the only record. The system had tried to file it away as nothing. But the footage, clean, undeniable, was already a crack in the wall. And cracks, given pressure, widened. The bass always carried a particular rhythm. Boots, clipped voices, engines, distant drills. Normally it grounded Marcus. Today it only pressed against him like a weight he had to drag from one step to the next. As he walked across the lot toward headquarters, conversations quieted. Soldiers glanced, looked away, then glanced again. News traveled fast, even when no one spoke it aloud. Private Lang stood near the entrance, shifting from foot to foot. The same young private who'd recorded the incident. He straightened when Marcus approached. Sir. Marcus paused. Private. Lang swallowed. I wanted to say. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just thought someone should have a record. You did the right thing. Lang blinked, surprised. Yes, sir. Marcus didn't offer more. He didn't have the emotional bandwidth for reassurance. He moved past the private and entered the building. Inside, Colonel Reyes waited near the briefing room doorway, arms folded. He didn't pretend this was a casual encounter. Office, Reyes said. Now. Marcus followed him into a small space cluttered with reports. Reyes shut the door, dropped into his chair and stared. You want to explain to me, Reyes said, why half the junior ranks are whispering about you being detained this morning? Marcus remained standing. Because I was. Reyes's mouth tightened. At gunpoint. No gun. Hands close enough to send a message. Reyes swore under his breath. Sit. Marcus didn't. I'm fine here. Reyes leaned back. I need the whole thing. No trimming. No, it's fine. Marcus delivered it cleanly. Every detail, every line Denton threw at him, every escalation, every attempt to twist compliance into threat. Reyes listened without interrupting, face growing darker with each sentence. When Marcus finished, Reyes said, You're filing a complaint. No. That wasn't a request, Marcus. It won't go anywhere. That isn't the point. Marcus's jaw tightened. The department already made it clear they want to bury it. Reyes tapped a pen against the desk. Of course they do. They bury anything that threatens liability. Exactly. But they don't get the only say anymore. Reyes turned his monitor. Your private Lang sent me something. Asked if it mattered. On the screen the footage. Full. Crisp. Unbroken. Denton's words audible. His posture aggressive. The slap of the ID hitting pavement. The line. Men like you don't get to stand tall around me. The grab. The reveal of the insignia. The moment Denton froze. Marcus inhaled slowly. Reyes said, This isn't speculation. This isn't a complaint they can water down into miscommunication. This is proof. Marcus kept his expression still. Footage doesn't guarantee justice. No, Reyes said. But it denies them the luxury of pretending nothing happened. Marcus looked at the screen again. His own face, calm, controlled, unbroken, felt distant, as though the camera had captured a version of him that was too composed to reflect the pressure underneath. Reyes stood. I'll handle the formal routing. You just need to sign. Marcus didn't touch the clipboard Reyes offered. Marcus, Reyes said quietly. What he did wasn't just harassment. It was an attempt to break you publicly. To strip you of authority. To make you small so he could feel big. Marcus remained silent. Reyes continued. If you don't push back, the system learns you're safe to target. Marcus's eyes narrowed. I'm not interested in becoming a symbol. You already are, Reyes said. You didn't choose it. He forced it. Now you decide if the story he wrote becomes the final version. A knock hit the door. Private Lang again, breath unsteady. Sirs, someone posted the footage. Marcus turned fully. What? Lang nodded. It's out there. Freeware. People are already sharing it. Reyes grabbed his tablet, scrolling fast. The video sat on the screen. Thousands of shares, comments multiplying by the second. Some supportive, some venomous, some calling Marcus a liar before they'd even watched it. Marcus felt a quiet shift inside him. Not fear, not anger, something colder. A recognition. The situation was no longer containable, no longer internal, no longer private. Reyes looked up. You didn't leak it. No. Then someone else decided the public deserved to see it. Marcus stepped back from the desk, gaze fixed somewhere beyond the walls. Reyes said, They'll reach out. Media. Advocacy groups. Maybe the department trying to rewrite the narrative. Brace yourself. Marcus exhaled once. I didn't want this. I know. It doesn't matter, Marcus said. It's already bigger. Reyes nodded slowly. Then we move forward. Marcus turned to the window. Soldiers moved across the yard with calm precision, unaware that the ground had shifted for him. Reyes asked, You ready? Marcus didn't turn. Readiness stopped being optional this morning. And for the first time all day, the weight didn't feel like something pushing him down. It felt like something he was preparing to carry. The footage spread faster than any official report ever could. By the time Marcus reached his quarters, notifications were detonating across his phone in relentless bursts. Unknown numbers, blocked numbers, media outlets, advocacy groups, retired officers, strangers with opinions packaged as truths. He set the phone face down. Silence didn't last. A knock at the door. Firm, rhythmic, insistent. Marcus opened it. Sergeant Daria Bishop stood outside, tablet in hand. Her expression was sharper than usual, the tight look of someone who had been reading too much and trusting too little. "Sir," she said, stepping inside without waiting. "You've seen it all, I assume." Marcus gestured at the dark screen on his desk. "I've seen enough." She exhaled hard. "The department released a statement 20 minutes ago. I think you should hear it." Marcus didn't sit. Bishop tapped the screen, and the recorded press briefing began playing. A police spokesperson stood at a podium, delivering sanitized precision. An individual who appeared agitated raised his voice, refused to comply. The officer acted within training parameters. "We urge the public not to jump to conclusions." Marcus shut it off. Bishop's voice was tight. "They twisted it into a confrontational civilian incident. Predictable. They're implying you escalated it." "Yes." Bishop stared at him as if expecting a larger reaction. Marcus didn't give one. "Sir, people are tearing this apart online," she said. "Some think the video is edited. Some say Denton was defending himself. Others say you were provoking him just by standing there." Marcus looked at her evenly. Standing while black has been labeled provocation for generations. Nothing new. She hesitated. "Are you okay?" "That's not relevant." Bishop swallowed the rest of her concern and shifted into professionalism. "Reyes wants you in the briefing room. Media is pressuring public affairs. They're asking for a statement from you. I'm not making one. You might not have a choice." Marcus walked past her, heading outside. The late afternoon sun was sharp, slicing across the pavement. Soldiers nearby paused their conversations, some giving nods of solidarity, others watching with guarded curiosity. Bishop hurried to keep up. "Sir, someone already identified Denton. His supporters are calling him a hero. You're being cast as the aggressor." Marcus stopped in the middle of the path. "Because that's the script. They recycle it every time." Bishop opened her mouth, closed it, then said, "Reyes said the Pentagon's legal office is monitoring the situation. This isn't staying local." Marcus continued walking. "It stopped being local when Denton grabbed me." They reached the building. Voices leaked under the door. Reyes arguing with someone on speakerphone. "No, I'm not letting him be paraded in front of cameras. Yes, I understand optics. Yes, I know who he is. No, you listen." Reyes cut the call when they entered. "Colonel," he said, "they want to position you as cooperative. Come. As apolitical. They want a statement that says you trust the process." "I don't." "I know. But they want you to pretend." Marcus didn't sit. "What are they planning?" Reyes folded his arms. "Damage control. For them, not for you. Denton has a segment of the public already calling him the real victim. The department's leaning into that." Marcus absorbed that with no outward shift. Reyes continued. "Some military forums are defending you. Some aren't. It's split. Expected." "Marcus." Reyes lowered his voice. "If you stay silent, they'll use it. Twist it. If you speak, they'll weaponize that too. There's no safe path. There never was." Reyes gave a humorless exhale. The video didn't soften anything. It hardened everything. Marcus finally Saturday. "What's the official recommendation?" "Public Affairs wants you to say you regret the misunderstanding." "No. They want you to say you support the ongoing review." "No. They want you to say Denton didn't represent the department as a whole." "No. Reyes rubbed his forehead. I figured those would be your answers. Bishop looked between them. Sir, with respect, what's your plan? Marcus looked at her. To stand still until others finish moving around me. They'll reveal their intentions through their actions. Reyes nodded, accepting the logic even if he hated it. Fine. But be ready. Denton's people are circling the wagons. They're calling him disciplined, restrained, honorable. Marcus's jaw tightened a fraction. And me, Reyes added. A threat. Bully. An arrogant officer abusing rank privileges. Marcus didn't react. That was the part that disturbed them most. He said only, truth doesn't need emotion. Reyes leaned forward. But injustice feeds on silence. Marcus stood again. I'm not silent. I'm measured. Bishop's tablet chimed with updates. She scanned them quickly. Sir. Denton just released a statement through his union. She read it aloud. He claims you taunted him. Says you used your size to intimidate him. Says you tried to provoke a confrontation. Reyes cursed under his breath. Marcus's expression remained steady, but something colder entered his eyes. Bishop looked up. Sir, what do we do now? We wait, Marcus said. The truth is already out there. Now we see who tries to bury it, and who tries to twist it. Reyes murmured. And who tries to survive it. Marcus turned toward the window as his own image flickered across a muted television in the hallway. Captured mid-scene, standing tall while Denton lunged. He studied the screen a moment. Not pride. Not shame. Just recognition. A war had begun. And he hadn't chosen the battlefield. The hallway held its usual static hum when Maya stepped through security, badge swinging against her coat. She moved without hesitation, cutting straight toward the precinct's administrative wing. No one stopped her. Authority preceded her like a shield. She reached records. The clerk looked up once, recognized the clearance level stamped on her ID, and slid the terminal access across the counter without commentary. Maya. Pull the incident logs for Officer Trent. Past 90 days. Body cam, dispatch timestamps, civilian statements. Full chain. Clerk. That's a lot. Maya. Not a request. He executed the pull. The feed populated with time-stamped contradictions, selective deactivations, mismatched narratives, missing authorizations. Maya downloaded everything to an encrypted drive and walked out. She entered interview room B. Officer Trent sat inside, arms crossed, posture inflated by habit rather than confidence. He opened his mouth to preempt, but Maya dropped the folder onto the table before he formed a word. She didn't sit. Maya. Your report from yesterday contradicts dispatch. Body cam inactive during the key window. Again. Trent. That footage was glitched. Tech can confirm. Maya placed 3 printed screenshots in front of him. Separate days, identical glitches. Identical intervals, identical beneficiaries. Maya. You created the pattern, not the camera. Trent. You don't have authority to. She cut him off with a second folder, thicker than the first. Maya. This is your 90-day behavioral index. Complaints. Suppressed addenda. Edited footage. You operated under the assumption that no one upstream would audit the raw chain. That assumption is void. He leaned back, forced a smirk that had lost its structural support. Trent. You think you can make something stick? Internal always protects its own. Maya. Not when federal jurisdiction supersedes internal. I don't need your cooperation. I need your acknowledgement of receipt. She placed an acknowledgement form on the table. He hesitated. She didn't move. The silence compressed him. He signed. Maya collected the folder without ceremony. Maya. Your administrative shield is gone. Your immediate supervisor has already been briefed. My position will be disclosed in 10 minutes. You'll learn it the same way everyone else does. Through protocol. She left him sitting in the stark fluorescent wash, stripped of the leverage he thought was inherent to his uniform. The door closed behind her with the finality of a concluded equation. Word traveled faster than Trent expected. By the time Maya reached the command office, the atmosphere had shifted, tightened, as if the building itself registered a structural reevaluation. Captain Rourke stood behind his desk, reading the packet Maya had forwarded. His jaw was locked, not in anger, but in the mechanical restraint of someone parsing an unavoidable consequence. Rourke, you moved fast. Maya, delay creates interference. Rourke, and you're sure about federal escalation. Maya placed her badge on the desk, not the precinct badge she used to enter the building, but the one she kept sealed until necessary. The emblem caught the overhead light with institutional finality. Rourke exhaled once, short and silent. Rourke, judge. Maya, correct jurisdiction. Correct authority. He closed the folder. Rourke, you didn't disclose your position when this started. Maya, position isn't leverage. Evidence is. He nodded. The hierarchy inverted itself without resistance. Rourke picked up his phone. Rourke, I'll convene the oversight panel. Trent will be removed from active duty pending full review. Maya, pending nothing. Removal effective immediately. Rourke paused, recalibrated, then executed the instruction. Rourke, effective immediately. Maya turned to leave, but the lieutenant outside the office stepped into her path, tentative rather than oppositional. Lieutenant, is it true? About your role? Maya, your verification process isn't my responsibility. Lieutenant, understood. She walked past him and entered the main floor. Conversations stopped in incremental waves as recognition traveled. She didn't acknowledge it. Observation wasn't her metric. Two officers approached, one hesitant, one relieved. Officer 1. Judge Walker. Maya, titles aren't required. Officer 2. He's been a problem for years. Maya, you documented nothing. Officer 2 stiffened. No defense available. Maya, silence is participation. Don't repeat it. She moved on. In the far corridor, Trent was being escorted out. Hands unrestrained but posture collapsed. He looked up as she passed, confusion fracturing into comprehension. Trent, a judge. You. That's impossible. Maya didn't stop. Maya, your perception wasn't a parameter of my existence. He had no answer. The escort continued. Maya exited the building. The air outside was still, carrying none of the noise she'd dismantled inside. Her work for the day was concluded, but the structural audit she'd triggered had only begun. The public sphere had shifted while Marcus remained grounded in military protocol. Social media churned with fragments of the morning. Short clips of Denton lunging, static cam angles of Marcus standing his ground. Comments ran the gamut. Applause, venom, disbelief. Marcus didn't look. He walked through the base with measured steps, every motion calculated, every gaze scanning for incongruities rather than people. Private Lang intercepted him near the administration wing. Sir, a journalist called. Wants an interview. Says Denton's history is problematic. Marcus stopped. History. Lang nodded. Suppressed complaints, disciplinary notes, inconsistent reports. You'd want to see it. Marcus didn't ask how Lang obtained it. He already suspected. He followed the private to a quiet office where the files were displayed. Redacted pages, timestamps, internal memos, all pointing to a pattern of misconduct Denton had cultivated, protected by the department's hierarchy. Lang. It's all here. Previous complaints, missing reports. It's been buried for years. Marcus scanned the documents. Each omission, each lost report, each dismissal followed a pattern. Aggression against black civilians, selective enforcement, falsified accounts. Each page added weight, but it wasn't anger that pulsed. It was recognition. Recognition of the system. Recognition of his own past compliance in silence. Recognition that exposure now could dismantle a cycle. He said quietly, "This isn't personal. It's structural." Lang nodded. "Do we release it?" Marcus shook his head. "Not yet. First, internal witnesses. Statements. Context. The integrity of the record must be undeniable." Minutes became hours. Marcus dictated the order in which evidence would be submitted, who would be questioned first, and how public access would be managed. Every step considered, every chain of custody documented. By evening, his team had assembled a precise timeline: Denton's pattern of harassment, the falsified reports, and the suppressed internal complaints. Even the department's attempts at internal shielding were exposed in the chain of memos. Marcus leaned back in his chair, hands steepled. Silence outside the office was deceptive. The storm was building, but every move was calculated, measured, controlled. The first phone call came from a local news desk. Verification requests. Marcus answered, succinct and factual, refusing embellishment, refusing bias. Each sentence was a scalpel, cutting through attempts to misrepresent. By nightfall, Denton's circle had sensed the change. Whispered communications, internal memos, urgent calls. Marcus's methodical strategy had already destabilized their control. Denton, unaccustomed to losing operational command, made his first misstep. He leaked partial memos, attempting to spin them as administrative error. Marcus had anticipated it. The journalist, fully briefed, had already archived all documents, timestamps, and corroborating sources. The leak only strengthened the narrative of systemic misconduct. Marcus closed his laptop, breathing even. A single thought repeated in his mind: exposure is methodical. It is justice applied through procedure, not emotion. Outside, the base was quiet. Soldiers moved, oblivious to the currents he had set in motion. Marcus stood, shoulders square, the weight of the day evident in his posture but not his resolve. Tomorrow the hearings would begin. Denton would face his past in a public, procedural arena. Marcus knew the exposure would fracture alliances, destabilize hierarchies, and force accountability. But he also knew it carried costs: personal, reputational, emotional. The street where it began, the crosswalk, the sun-bleached pavement, still waited. Marcus would return there when the storm passed. But for now, every strategic move mattered more than closure. He exhaled. The system had been tested. The breaking point approached. The morning light hit the hearing room with sterile precision, reflecting off polished surfaces, cameras, and the anxious faces of those who had underestimated process. Marcus entered with measured steps, the weight of protocol and strategy pressing against his spine like reinforced armor. He did not glance at Denton, who sat rigid, sweating under fluorescent scrutiny. Judge Adler, a veteran in procedural authority, called the room to order. This hearing addresses the incident involving Officer Denton and Colonel Marcus Hale. Let the record reflect all present parties. Denton's lawyer attempted the first maneuver, a quick, emotive appeal, framing Denton as overextended and provoked. Marcus remained silent, hands clasped behind his back, expression neutral. The collected evidence from internal memos, archived complaints, and body cam footage sat neatly in the prosecution binders, ready for presentation. First witness: a dispatch officer who had observed Denton's pattern of selective engagement. Testimony was precise, brief, and damning. Second witness: Private Lang, whose footage captured the initial encounter. Video played for all to see. Denton lunging, verbal aggression, attempts to fabricate compliance violations. The room absorbed the silence after the clip ended, a collective recognition of incontrovertible truth. Denton's defense faltered with every presentation. Attempts to rationalize deactivated cameras, contradictory statements, and missing reports were systematically dismantled by corroborated evidence. Marcus's statements were measured, delivering clarity without emotion, leaving Denton exposed by both procedure and public scrutiny. Judge Adler leaned forward. Officer Denton, your record, combined with the testimony and documentary evidence, shows repeated misconduct. This is not a single incident but a systemic pattern. Denton's lips twitched, searching for defense. None existed. Marcus remained still. The weight of the process did not require vindictive expression. The collapse unfolded through the architecture of truth, not spectacle. By mid-afternoon, the hearing concluded with the panel unanimous. Termination of Denton's employment, formal notation of misconduct, and referral to federal oversight for legal review. Supervisors who had shielded him were compelled to acknowledge lapses in oversight. Their statements, under oath, reinforced the systemic accountability Marcus had methodically exposed. Outside the chamber, media outlets recorded the outcome. Denton's attempts to spin the narrative dissolved under verified facts. Public commentary shifted. Applause for Marcus was tempered by acknowledgement of systemic delay and prior silencing. Marcus did not seek attention. He left the building quietly, passing groups of observers whose recognition was silent, disciplined. Each step measured, each motion restrained. He returned to the street where the initial confrontation had occurred. The crosswalk was empty, sunlight fractured by intermittent clouds. Marcus stood still, assessing the space without performative gesture. A passerby, unfamiliar yet aware, nodded subtly in acknowledgement. Marcus returned the nod, expression neutral. The collapse of Denton's authority and the exposure of the systemic enablers was complete. Marcus absorbed the finality not as triumph but as recognition of cost, the personal strain, emotional fatigue, and the broader societal implications. Justice had been applied through evidence, structure, and procedure, not impulse. He exhaled, slow and deliberate, letting the weight of responsibility recede but not disappear. Standing tall was no longer about confrontation. It was affirmation of presence and restraint, the quiet assertion that authority must coexist with accountability. The street remained silent. Marcus stepped forward, not in defiance but in clarity, measured, composed, and resolute. Weeks had passed since the hearing. The media cycle had moved, but the memory of the street, the crosswalk, the glare of Denton, the surge of public attention, remained etched in Marcus's mind. He returned to it deliberately, timing his walk when the sun had shifted, when the sidewalks were quieter, and when the ordinary rhythms of the city could not overshadow what had transpired there. Marcus's boots echoed against the pavement, measured, calm. People passed, some noticing him, some not. No sirens cut through the morning. No uniforms loomed with implicit threat. The street carried neutrality now, but Marcus sensed the lingering tension in the air, the imprint of what had occurred. He stopped at the exact point where Denton had reached for him, where a crowd had gathered, where silence had enforced power through inaction. He inhaled deeply, eyes sweeping the surrounding space. The pavement, the curbs, the flicker of a bus sign. Ordinary, banal, but weighted by memory. A small child on a scooter drifted past, oblivious. A woman walked her dog, phone in hand, seemingly unaware. Marcus felt the hum of ordinary life pressing against the ghost of the past confrontation. From the corner of his eye, a passerby, a young man, briefcase in hand, paused mid-step. Recognition flickered, subtle but present. The man offered a quiet nod. Marcus responded, returning the acknowledgement with composure, not triumph. It was not for show. It was an affirmation of presence, of endurance, of continuity. He allowed himself a measured pause, hands resting lightly at his sides. Standing tall was no longer an act of defiance, no longer a challenge, no longer a statement to those who had sought to intimidate him. It was a reclamation of space, of authority, and of self-possession. The distant hum of traffic punctuated the moment, ordinary and persistent. Marcus surveyed the street again, noting small details. The worn crosswalk lines, the cracks in the pavement, the faint smell of freshly baked bread from a nearby shop. These elements grounded him in reality, stripped of symbolic significance. The confrontation, the systemic injustice, the public attention, they had passed through this space, leaving only the residue of memory. Marcus exhaled slowly. The emotional cost remained. The strain of exposure, the subtle erosion of trust in institutions, the awareness of systemic patterns that still existed. But he carried it with recognition, not resentment. Justice had been enacted, not perfectly but materially. Denton's fall, the procedural accountability, the exposure of institutional complicity, all of it affirmed the necessity of resilience over reaction. A slight breeze lifted his coat lapels. Marcus adjusted his stance, subtle and precise. Standing tall here now was an unspoken assertion. Presence over erasure, endurance over intimidation, clarity over chaos. He began walking, not toward confrontation, not toward symbolic territory, but forward. Step by step, measured, deliberate. The street extended before him, ordinary yet acknowledged. Each stride reinforced the continuum between past and present, between systemic challenge and personal authority. A bus stopped at the corner. Passengers disembarked, scanning the sidewalk, a minor interruption to the rhythm of his movement. Marcus integrated their presence into the broader scene without altering his course. Observation, recognition, continuation. He did not react, he did not perform. He existed within the parameters of choice, agency, and unbroken composure. As he reached the far end of the block, the street's noise reasserted itself. Distant car horns, footsteps, conversation. Marcus allowed himself the faintest relaxation of posture, still standing tall but no longer rigid, a controlled release rather than abandonment. The city carried on, indifferent to him, and yet he navigated it with renewed authority. The encounter had ended long ago. The institutional reckoning had concluded. The personal cost remained, but it no longer defined the moment. Marcus had reclaimed the street, reclaimed the posture, reclaimed the agency that others had attempted to strip. For a final measure, he glanced back over the block, eyes tracing the path of conflict and endurance. Nothing moved. No reminders, no provocations, no signals of lingering threat. Only space, ordinary, unthreatening, unclaimed. And in that emptiness, Marcus recognized the quiet victory. Presence sustained without spectacle, authority maintained without aggression. He exhaled once more. The street held him and he held it. Standing tall was no longer an act of resistance. It was a demonstration of unassailable self-possession. Step by step, Marcus walked onward.